So Nigel, I was just at our industry trade show, and two-channel audio was more popular than it has been in the past, where we tend to be focused more on new technologies. There's been a renewed interest, it seems, in two-channel audio and analog audio. So I thought it'd be interesting to bring James Westbrook on and kind of have a discussion with him. How do you think that sounds?
I think it's great. So, I suspect this is one of those areas we all thought was dead and came back to life the same way the sort of home theaters came back during the pandemic. We seem to have two channels, and James is the CEO of the Bravos affiliate in OKC. So, James, thank you for joining us. Maybe we should start at the beginning. And what do we mean by two channel?
Well, we view two-channel as a reproduction of recorded music in stereo form using just a left and a right speaker.
Okay, so this is what we used to have when our parents had hi-fi systems. Is that right?
Absolutely. Back in the 70s and 80s, there were hi-fi stores, and they were just centered around two-channel music and the reproduction of two-channel music, largely with the source being vinyl at the time.
Well, so is this about vinyl coming back again? I mean, is this why didn't digital wipe this all off the map?
That's a great question because we've asked ourselves that. And, we've tried to recreate what existed in the 70s and 80s. And that was a physical store where you could go in and you could hold the content in your hands and you could look at the artwork and you could feel it and you had a sense of ownership. Since the analog sales have eclipsed the digital sales year after year for the last 3 years, we see that people still want to touch and hold that media. And, people miss being able to go in those stores. There's a digital download gives you nothing tangible at the end of the day.
Also, though, I've been playing on when I was with you at your OKC place, which I think you call the Groove now.
Yes.
At least the music store is the Groove. There are services like Tidal and even Apple that are sort of offering the original masters. They're not the sort of bad download qualities we used to have, aren't they?
That is correct. So there's a wide variety of not just compressed music, but from compressed to full digital downloads available. You still don't have that tangible touch and feel. If you think about the fact that people are now buying and building vinyl collections, it's kind of hard to go online and sort through a bunch of different records and choose them and have them ordered and show up in your mailbox. It's a lot different to go out to the store, have this experience at the store, touch and feel the content, play with it. There's many that argue that the sound reproduced from vinyl is much truer and much warmer. We here at the Groove believe that to be true.
So I'm pretty sure the last time I ordered music online, well, it wasn't online, it was from a catalog, and I got in a lot of trouble for it. But I understand that people want that tangible, ability to kind of interact with the thing they've purchased. But kind of going back to Nigel's question, now that we are seeing digital, like high-res digital music, it does feel like the iPod being able to just carry music around in your pocket would have killed this off. Do you think there's other reasons people are kind of reacting away from just having all of their music all the time and wanting something a little more, I don't know, unique, unplugged?
If you grew up and went through school in the 70s or 80s, you were around when the Walkman first came out, and more importantly, the iPod. And in order to get that music in that small amount of space with the limited storage it had, the music had to be compressed significantly, meaning a lot of the content was removed in order to be able to fit the content onto the medium. And I believe that people got used to listening to stripped down compressed music, and here lately there seems to be an emotional reattachment to the music. And getting that full non-compressed information has become much more important to many.
And CDs were not necessarily that much better either, were they?
Well, CDs they were significantly better than what you would get on your iPod. They were better than a cassette tape because you could put so much more information on a CD. But in general, were CDs that much better? I don't think so.
I think from my own personal experience, because I do have maybe not a two-channel system in my house, but I have a theater that can play great music and I can actually sit and enjoy it. That isn't something I was doing when I just had my iPhone with every option in the world. I kind of think of it as like going into an ice cream store every day with a million flavors, and it's hard to choose what you like. But when you strip it back and you have fewer options, it's kind of easy to enjoy the records you have on hand or the stuff you've actually downloaded and just sit and enjoy it and not feel like you're missing something else. Has that kind of experience that you've seen?
It is absolutely. You know, it reminds me of one of the first events we did up here at the Groove. We want to be an educational outlet for our clients, not necessarily just come by and spend money. We had an event where we took 5 different tracks and we found a MP3, a Bluetooth, an AirPlay, the highest resolution digital download, and that same track on vinyl. And we stepped these up in the demonstration for an audience of roughly 25 to 30 people. And the reactions that we got from everybody were overwhelming. Everybody chose the quality and the clarity of vinyl over the digital versions. Comments of like, you know, you can almost feel their breath, or you felt like you were in the room. It is truly more of an experience when you go through the act of listening to vinyl rather than just the act of going through listening to something on a CD or a download.
Okay, so you have me. You got me. I want to do this. Where do I start?
There are so many different products on the market today, and the information is so crazy. I mean, you find a local retailer, you find somebody that actually has a shop that's invested in the equipment, that has the knowledge, and can consult you in the direction to provide you with the solution that you're looking for. I'm seeing that our clients, specifically here in Oklahoma City, are much more embracing of the value-added retailer concept than they used to be. I think that a lot of people have lost faith and trust in the internet and the online retailers. And you know, what you see in an advertisement might not necessarily be what comes out of the box when it arrives at your house. So to your point, the answer is find a good local retailer where you can go and experience and see what they have to offer.
But in terms of the technology, what are we talking about? How do you get what are you going to be buying? Not necessarily the manufacturers, but the boxes. What do you need?
Quite simple. I mean, you're going to start with some form of a stereo amplifier, and that stereo amplifier is going to be preloaded with different features. You know, for instance, they might have internal Bluetooth, or they might have a built-in streamer. So knowing what type of content that you're going to listen to is going to steer you in the direction of selecting the right amplifier. And then secondly, you're going to want to pair that amplifier to an appropriate pair of speakers. Speakers are typically going to be chosen based on the size of the room or the location in which we are trying to reproduce the best stereo image. And then, of course, the sources that you're going to connect to it, whether it be a turntable or a digital to analog converter for digital sources or a streamer. There's a wide variety of features, amplifiers, speakers, and sources available.
So if somebody were to kind of want to go pick that amp, source, speakers, roughly how would they divide their budget? Like, how do they think about where that money goes and where it goes the furthest?
Well, for me, I think it starts with the speaker. Some speakers are more aesthetically pleasing than others. Some people care more about what they look like. There's a balance between performance and aesthetics. So knowing what type of speaker you're ultimately going to utilize is going to help us pick the proper power amplifier for the application. You know, a very, very large set of boomy big speakers requires a lot more amplification than a small set of bookshelf speakers.
So what do you think is the minimum entry point price here? You know, if someone says, I really want to listen to my music, is the entry point $1,000, $5,000, $25,000? Where's that start?
We feel for us, our best entry level systems start at $1,000. And that indeed is simply a pair of powered speakers, meaning the speakers have the amplifier internally and give you the ability to stream through them with tremendous fidelity. If you're looking for a component system with a separate amplifier, a pair of speakers, and a turntable, for us, that entry level is $1,200 to $1,500.
So I have to admit, Keith, that I'm a little biased here because I went to visit James and the team in Oklahoma City, and I ended up spending money. So I got myself an NAD C700, I think it was, James, and a couple of Sonos Faber speakers. And I have to tell you, they're fabulous. I mean, I think, we're talking way under $5,000 for all of this environment. But I sit and listen to some of my music, and I'm rediscovering it. I don't know how else to say this. How do you say this, James? You discover stuff in your music you just didn't know was there.
Nigel, for me, it's great that you say that, because we get such pleasure out of helping people like yourself re-engage themselves with the emotional aspects of music, and going back and remembering things, or reliving things, or re-experiencing things they did in the past. So wonderful to hear that that purchase has led you to a new reappreciation of music that you used to listen to.
It is interesting, that kind of journey. Like, we went from music not being that easy to live with. I mean, it was a big console and you had to go buy the media and put it in, but people really loved it, to it becoming so accessible that we forgot how much we loved it because it was just there. And then in our industry, we had Sonos, which just kind of made it easy to have music everywhere in the house, which kind of allowed people to rediscover their music. But now people are really reconnecting with their music, because you can get that great sound, really high quality audio, and actually just like really enjoy it for what it is. Kind of the same way you would go to a concert. Like, you don't want to listen to the concert from outside. You want to be in front of the stage. And this kind of gives you that experience.
There's so much music out there. And another thing that we've really enjoyed is you can't just listen to vinyl. Streaming is always going to come into play. And streaming has given a lot of people the ability to discover new music and new content they may have previously not discovered, through the unique algorithms and genre-based pointing that a lot of these streaming services now offer.
Yeah, and we go to a number of concerts here in Austin, and we often sit and listen to the top performances by that artist before we go to the concert. Some of them we own, and sometimes it's we go on to Tidal, or we go on to Apple Music and get the lossless recordings, so we can hear them perfectly. But I have to tell you, sometimes my wife just puts a streaming service on because she's in the room and she wants to listen to music. There's many different ways to enjoy this.
Yeah, another thing about some of these streaming services is if you subscribe to a monthly access to a streaming service, and that service somehow loses their relationship or their license to replay that content's no longer available to you. Another reason why some of the avid music collectors have gone back to collecting vinyl, so that content is always at the tip of your fingers.
So I have one more question for you, James. Was one more technical question. We've talked about the system, but how does the room that you place it in matter, and how can we help impact that?
So acoustics play into all equations, and there are certain products that have digital signal processors built into them that can kind of help tune the speaker to better perform in the environment that it's in. The groove here, we were in a building that was built in 1907 that's 4 concrete walls, a concrete ceiling, and a concrete floor. And you can see a little bit of wood treatment behind me, which we've used to diffuse and absorb some of the sound of the room. And what you don't see below me is a entire floor covered with Persian carpets and heavy padding underneath them to help absorb and defer that sound.
So we've talked about the entry point, maybe $1,000, to get yourself a nice into it. How far can people go? How much money could you spend on this?
There's no limit. I've seen speakers that were $250,000 a piece. I've seen turntables at the high-end audio show in Munich that were in excess of $200,000. I mean, there absolutely is no limit. For us, when we recently had a client invest a little over $120,000 in a 2-channel system for his home, and you get a lot for that $120,000. Couldn't imagine spending more than that, but you certainly could.
Can you do it sort of simultaneously with a home theater system?
You can, but it's not quite the same because you've got different digital signal performance curves that are built into the home theater systems to maximize a multi-channel system, 5, 7, 9, 12 speakers. When you get into a two-channel system, it's quite simple. You really just need a bass adjustment, a treble adjustment. If you want to go beyond that and get into electronics to tweak the sound a little bit more, you can. We find that in the two-channel world, people that are truly passionate about it are typically chasing an upgrade path throughout their lives. There's constant upgrades. Many of our manufacturers will annually offer trade-in or upgrade programs. But very, very common that we'll see somebody start at that entry point of, let's call it $1,000, and throughout the next 10 years, they'll build that system up to, 5, 10, 15, in some cases, $25,000 or $30,000 value.
One of my friends is a very ardent meditation fan, and if you've been through health problems recently, one of the things you can do to strengthen yourself is meditation. And many people struggle with meditation, and his advice to me was, put your two-channel system on, find your favorite piece of music, shut your eyes and listen to it for 5 or 10 minutes. For me, by the way, it's slightly longer because that for me would be Rhapsody in Blue. Just shut your eyes and listen to it on a great sound system. And that's as good a meditation as anything you can do.
I will admit I didn't like jazz until I built a two-channel system. Played jazz because it was what was available at the time in the formats that I had, SACD or whatever it was. It was like the only thing I could find locally, but I loved it after that.
For me, after a long, stressful day, there's nothing more relaxing than to go get a beverage, sit down, put on a record, and just enjoy it. You got to get up every 13, 14 minutes, change the side anyway. It's so you're constantly engaged and going through the vinyl collection and picking what you want to play next. And it truly does take your mind off of everything. And, I get fully immersed in it, and tremendous relaxation for myself.
Okay, James, last thing. You're allowed one record, one gramophone, one disc. What is it that you're keeping? What's your favorite thing to listen to?
Man, I am going to go back to I'm not sure I'm right on the year. I believe it was 1968, but it was the first pressing of the first album released by the Grateful Dead.
Wow. And what about you, Keith? What is your one album you're going to keep forever?
I have been disconnected from music for a while, but I think it would actually be something pretty recent, which is one of Leon Bridges' albums. I'm sure I can get those in vinyl, right, James?
Oh, you absolutely can.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that.
Perfect. Well, and I said mine's Rhapsody in Blue. I like the Pittsburgh Philharmonic, conducted by Andre Previn. So that's particularly my favorite recording. So, James, thank you very much. If people are in the OKC area or they can get to OKC, where can they find the Groove?
We are on Broadway Avenue, which is known as Automobile Alley, and we're in a very interesting location. We're tucked in a back room behind a vinyl lounge called the Sound Bar. And within the Sound Bar, a local record store has for sale a selection of roughly 10,000 different albums. So as people come into the Sound Bar to listen to vinyl and sort through vinyl, they just pop back to the back room and they can see everything we have on display at the Groove. The physical address is 712C Broadway Avenue in Oklahoma City. But we're only open Wednesday through Saturday from 2 p.m. to 10 p.m.
Perfect. But if I'm sure they can get you outside of those times. So listen, James, thank you very much. I think we would love to get everybody back into listening to the music and hearing it in the best quality format they can. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks, James.